Namaste. My name is Gauranga Darshandas. I am a resident of Govardhan Eco Village and I serve at the Bhaktivedanta Vidyapit Research Center. Today we will discuss about the heritage of the holy texts of India. The Vedic scriptures are the real wealth of spiritual India. And all these Vedic scriptures are manifested in front of the humanity through the wonderful efforts of Vyasadeva and his disciples and grand disciples. Actually, the Vedas are called Apaurusheya, means they are not written or compiled by any ordinary human being. They actually get manifested from the Supreme God. Right in the beginning of creation, the Supreme Personality of Godhead gives this Vedic knowledge to Lord Brahma, who is considered the creator of this universe. So, all these Vedas are actually manifesting from the Supreme God, and the literary incarnation of God is Vyasadeva. And that Vyasadeva very kindly, compassionately put all these scriptures in the form of writing for the welfare of the humanity, especially for the welfare of the people of Kali Yuga. So Vedas are actually called Apaurusheya because they are manifested directly from the Supreme Lord. And the prominent subject matters of these Vedic scriptures are threefold. Number one, Sambandha. Number two, Abhideya. Three, Prayojana. Sambandha means knowing our relationship with God. Abhideya means following the process of reviving that relationship with God. Prayojana means the ultimate purpose. The ultimate purpose is to love God and to serve God. So these are the three subject matters of Vedic scriptures: Sambandha, Abhideya, and Prayojana. So in the beginning of creation, Lord Brahma was enlightened by the Supreme God with this Vedic knowledge. Tene Brahma Hridayadikavaye muhyanti yat surayah. So actually the Supreme Lord Krishna, as he says in Bhagavad Gita, he is the real knower of Vedas. He is the real compiler of Vedas. All Vedic knowledge actually is originated from that Supreme Lord Krishna. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Vedaischa sarvair ahameva vedyo vedanta krit veda videva chaham. Vedaischa sarvair ahameva vedyo means I am the knower of Vedas. I am the compiler of Vedas. And by studying all the Vedas, I am to be known. And that Supreme Lord actually enlightens Brahma with this Vedic knowledge. In the beginning of creation, Lord Brahma creates these four Vedas. Actually, when Brahmaji is manifesting these Vedas, he spoke the mantras of the Vedas through his four mouths. Lord Brahma has four heads, and from each of these four mouths, the mantras of the Vedic scriptures, the mantras of these four Vedas are manifested. And all these mantras, when they came out of the four mouths of Brahma, they are like pile of colorful stones, precious gems. As you see in that picture, you just have a pile of very colorful stones. Some are in yellow color, some are in blue color, some are in green color, some are in some other color, like that. Brahma, when he uttered these Vedic mantras that belong to these four Vedas, they are like a big pile of stones. And for the benefit of Kali Yuga people, Vyasadeva, who is the literary incarnation of the Supreme God, he divided this one Veda. Actually, there are four Vedic mantras that emanated from Brahma's mouth, but they are all like one pile of stones. So, literary incarnation of God, Vyasadeva, has segregated these four Vedic mantras. And he divided that one Veda into four, knowing that the common people, especially people of this Kali Yuga, they cannot understand all this Vedic knowledge unless we divide that Vedic knowledge into small sections and subsections and present to them in a very systematic manner. So he just separated all the yellow stones separately, then red stones separately, then green stones separately, then blue stones separately. So like that he divided one Veda into four. Actually he divided that big collection of all the mantras that emanated from Brahma's four mouths into four sections and named them as four Vedas: Rig Veda, Yajur Veda, Sama Veda, and Atharva Vedas. And this Brahma, Vyasadeva, after dividing one Veda into 4, he appointed his disciples to take charge of these Vedas. So he gave Rig Veda to one disciple, then Sama Veda to one disciple. So you can see that big chart where Rig Veda was given to Paila Rishi. Then you can see that Atharva Veda was given to Sumantu. Then Yajur Veda was given to Vaisampayana Rishi. Then Sama Veda was given to Jaimini Rishi. And Vyasadeva has not only compiled these 4 Vedas, he has also compiled 18 Puranas. And the 18 Puranas, as you can see in the chart, they are Bhagavata Purana, Vishnu Purana, Padma Purana, Narada Purana, Garuda Purana, and Varaha Purana. These are the first 6 Puranas which are considered to be meant for people in mode of goodness or Sattva Guna. And there is another set of Puranas. They are Vamana Purana, Markandeya Purana, Brahma Purana, Bhavishya Purana, Brahma Vaivarta Purana, Brahmanda Purana. So these 6 Puranas are meant for people who are in mode of passion. And there is Matsya Purana, Kurma Purana, Linga Purana, Skanda Purana, Agni Purana, and Shiva Purana. So these 6 Puranas, they are meant for people who are in mode of ignorance. Like that, in this material world, different people are influenced by different material modes like Sattva Guna, Rajoguna, and Tamoguna. And Vyasadeva has actually provided Puranas that are relevant for all sections of people. So in this way, Vyasadeva has compiled all these Puranas, and later he has also compiled Mahabharata. And a part of that Mahabharata is Bhagavad Gita. We will discuss about Bhagavad Gita little later in this section, in this session. So, and Vyasadeva, he has written all these Puranas, and total there are 400,000 shlokas in all these Puranas put together. Brahma Purana has 10,000 shlokas, Padma Purana has 55,000 shlokas, Vishnu Purana has 23,000 shlokas, Shiva Purana has 24,000 shlokas, Srimad Bhagavata Purana has 18,000 shlokas, Markandeya Purana has 9,000 shlokas, Agni Purana has 15,000 shlokas, then Bhavishya Purana has 14,500 shlokas, Brahma Vaivarta Purana has 18,000 shlokas, Linga Purana has 11,000 shlokas, Varaha Purana has 24,000 shlokas. In this way we see that all the Puranas contain hundreds and thousands of shlokas. So all of them put together are about 400,000 shlokas. And Vyasadeva, after compiling this one Veda into 4, after dividing one Veda into 4 and then compiling these Puranas also, he has delegated the propagation of all these Puranas to his disciples and grand disciples. So as I said, Rig Veda was given to Paila Rishi for propagation. And Paila Rishi has divided this Rig Veda into subsections, and he has given to his disciples for further propagation. And Atharva Veda was given to Sumantu Rishi, and Sumantu Rishi also divided this Atharva Veda into multiple sections, and then he has given that responsibility of further propagating this Atharva Veda to his disciples and grand disciples. In this way, the disciples and grand disciples of Vyasadeva has propagated this Vedic knowledge far and wide amongst the humanity. And these big sections of Vedas are divided into smaller subsections for the easy understanding of Kali Yuga people. And all these great souls, they did this great endeavor for the benefit of humanity out of their deep compassion on the people in this world. So then Puranas were given to Romaharshana. So 4 Vedas are given to 4 disciples of Vyasadeva, and Puranas were given to Romaharshana. And Romaharshana also started reciting these Puranas. So we will discuss about Romaharshana a little later in this episode. So even though Vyasadeva has compiled all these Puranas and divided one Veda into 4, Vyasadeva was not satisfied at heart. There is some kind of dissatisfaction within his mind, and he was not totally content. There is some kind of despondency. He was contemplating, I have divided one Veda into 4, I have written so many Puranas, I have written also Upanishads, I have also written Mahabharata for the humanity, for the welfare of the humanity. So why am I not being satisfied? So after doing so much of endeavor with a good intention, one should be satisfied, but Vyasadeva is not satisfied. At that time, Vyasadeva's guru, Narada Muni, came and enlightened Vyasadeva. Narada Muni said, my dear Vyasadeva, yes, undoubtedly you have done a very great work for the benefit of humanity, no doubt about it. Yet, you have not sufficiently emphasized on the process of Bhakti Yoga. You have not sufficiently described the glories of the Supreme Lord Krishna and his incarnations repeatedly. Unless the Supreme Lord Krishna is glorified and unless the process of Bhakti Yoga is emphasized, how can you be satisfied? Yes, definitely you have described the glories of the Supreme Lord Krishna and his various incarnations and also the process of Bhakti Yoga to some degree, but it was not repeated. So you need to repeatedly describe the glories of Bhakti Yoga, which is the ultimate spiritual path. So in this way, Narada Muni enlightened Vyasadeva in various ways, and Vyasadeva then compiled Srimad Bhagavatam. Earlier he has already compiled Srimad Bhagavatam, but later he began revising that text, Vedic text, that scripture, Srimad Bhagavatam, and he repeatedly glorified the Supreme Lord Krishna and his incarnations, and he also narrated the pastimes of various devotees of the Supreme Lord, and he emphasized on the process of Bhakti Yoga repeatedly, and he compiled Srimad Bhagavatam for the benefit of the entire humanity. And this shloka says in the first canto, Anarthopashamam sakshat bhakti yoga madhokshaje lokasya ajanato vidvams chakre sattvata samhitam. Anartha upashamam sakshat. Anartha means unwanted things, useless things. So an average conditioned soul in this material world is often overwhelmed with so many unwanted miseries and difficulties and problems in this world. Upashamam sakshat. What is the process of mitigating all those sufferings? What is the process of coming out of all those problems? Bhakti Yoga Madhokshaje, performing Bhakti Yoga, or the process of devotional service unto the Supreme Lord Adhokshaja, the Supreme Lord Krishna or Narayana or Vasudeva. That is the process of deliverance. And Lokasya Ajanato Vidvams, common people don't know that this Bhakti Yoga is the solution to material miseries. Chakre Sattvata Samhitam. That is the reason why Vyasadeva has compiled Srimad Bhagavatam. So, Srimad Bhagavatam is considered the essence of all scriptures, the cream of all scriptures. So, we have seen that Vyasadeva has compiled all these Vedic literatures and many other Puranas. And finally, when he was dissatisfied, he took to the compilation of Srimad Bhagavatam. Then he is completely satisfied. That's why Chaitanya Bhagavata, a beautiful scripture written by Vrindavan Das Thakur, glorifies Vyasadeva's effort in this way. You can see those Bengali shlokas. Veda Shastra Purana Kahiya Veda Vyas Tathapi Chittera Nahi Payena Prakash. Veda Shastra Purana Kahiya Veda Vyas means Veda Vyas has compiled Vedas, Puranas and other Shastras, but Tathapi Chittera Nahi Payena Prakash. Still, his mind was not satisfied. Then, Yakhane Shri Bhagavata Jihvaya Sphurila Tatakshane Chittavritti Prasanna Hailam. At the time he has compiled Srimad Bhagavatam, then his Chittavritti has become Prasanna. His mind is completely satisfied. So Srimad Bhagavatam is such a transcendental literature that gave complete satisfaction to its author. So when the author is recommending this is my best book, you need to give more value to that book than the other books. Yes, Vyasadeva has compiled previous literatures. It's not that they are all useless. They also are very relevant for the human society. But the best of all the scriptures that is most relevant for the human society, that can cause ultimate benefit for the human society, is considered Srimad Bhagavatam. And this is the conclusive opinion of various acharyas and various spiritual seekers. Now, it is a responsibility for a sincere spiritual seeker to study all these beautiful scriptures written by Vyasadeva, and especially Srimad Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, and the most important scriptures recommended by the acharyas. So, it's a very, very important responsibility for a spiritual seeker, because in the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, Sukadeva Goswami gives an example. During monsoon, means rainy season, in the villages there are muddy paths. So there are no concrete roads or tar roads in villages. There are muddy paths. So people would walk on those paths to reach from one destination to another destination. And somehow during the monsoon, people's movements are restricted. Because of so much of rain, people may not walk out so much. So because of heavy rains and because people are not using those muddy paths, these muddy paths often are covered by grasses. So when grasses cover these muddy paths, then the path is not visible. So the scriptures actually show path back to Godhead. You can see in that picture that the muddy pathways are covered with so many thick grasses. So at that time, when the muddy paths are covered by thick grasses, people may not be confident enough to walk on them because there could be some scorpions, there could be some snakes within, and by the end of monsoon, the muddy path is completely covered by bushes. So, Sukadeva Goswami in Srimad Bhagavatam, he derives a beautiful lesson from this phenomena of monsoon. He says that just as a muddy pathway is covered by grasses when it is not used by people, similarly, when the scriptures are not studied by common people, people in general, the path back to Godhead will be covered. Actually, the scriptures show us a beautiful spiritual path by which we can realize ourselves, by which we can attain the supreme destination of the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord in the spiritual world. So scriptures show us the path of salvation, path of liberation, path of going to God's loving company in the spiritual world. But if we don't study scriptures, then some misconceptions or some atheistic philosophies would overpower the humanity, and the genuine Vedic path or scriptural paths are they won't be accessible to common people. If one generation does not study and propagate this Vedic wisdom, scriptural wisdom, then the next generation will not have an example to follow. So in this way, Vyasadeva gives a very beautiful example of monsoon muddy paths. Now, in Bhagavad Gita also, Lord Krishna says, Yaha shastra vidhimutsrujya vartate kamakarataha nasasiddhim avapnoti nasukham na parangatim. Yaha shastra vidhim utsrujya, by keeping aside the prescriptions of the shastras, by not following the prescriptions and prohibitions or do's and don'ts or rules and regulations mentioned in the scriptures, one will not attain any perfection. One will not be happy in this life or in the next life. So actually all these Vedic scriptures are provided to the humanity by the loving compassion of the Supreme Lord. And God, the Father of the entire humanity, He is giving us some sacred texts for our guidance in this life and for our salvation in the next life. So we need to take advantage of the recommendations or the gifts of the Supreme Father in the form of these scriptures. Now, Srimad Bhagavad Gita, spoken directly by the Supreme Lord Krishna, is considered considered the most exalted scripture that gives foundational understanding of spiritual life. So Bhagavad Gita has the basic philosophy of body and soul and various paths in which one can connect with the Supreme Lord. And some people say that this Bhagavad Gita is meant for old people, or Bhagavad Gita is meant for some sadhus, some monks living in some secluded monasteries. It's not like that. So Bhagavad Gita was originally spoken by the Supreme Lord Krishna to Arjuna. Arjuna was neither a monk, Arjuna was also not a old man. He was a prince, and he had an immediate responsibility of fighting with Duryodhan, Dushashan, Karna, Shakuni and all these people. So in a situation of emergency, Krishna spoke this Bhagavad Gita to his dear friend Arjuna, who was neither a monk nor a retired person, old person. So Bhagavad Gita is not just meant for monks or retired people or old people. Bhagavad Gita is meant for everybody. So after a series of tragic incidents in Mahabharata, the main warrior from Pandava's side, Arjuna, he was bewildered. He was confused about his duty. So Draupadi was insulted by Duryodhana and Dushasana. And Draupadi was insulted in front of so many men in that assembly, and so many other atrocities were done by Duryodhana and party towards the Pandavas. Now this is a situation of war between good and evil. At that time, the main warrior Arjuna becomes confused about his duty. He didn't know whether he should fight or not. Fighting is good or stopping fight is better. So he was just confused about his duty. He, Bhagavad Gita says, Dharma sammodha chetaha. Arjuna says, my dear Krishna, my dear friend Krishna, I am bewildered about my duty. So such kind of confusing situations could arise in the life of anybody. So Bhagavad Gita gives guidance to people in such confusions. Just like after Krishna spoke Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna said that, my dear Lord Krishna, earlier I was dharma sammodha chetaha. Earlier I had lot of confusions about this fight. Now all my confusions are gone. I am situated in proper intelligence. Now karishye vachanam tava. I will do whatever you recommend. So Gita shows the way out of such confusions. So Bhagavad Gita was spoken in the context of war, but the content of Bhagavad Gita is life lessons. So what a person is supposed to do at all stages of life, during one's life, at the time of one's death, everything is written in, everything is spoken by the Supreme Lord personally in Bhagavad Gita. Krishna personally spoke the scripture. So the three main sections of Bhagavad Gita are Jnana Yoga, then Bhakti Yoga and Karma Yoga. So Karma Yoga is the main subject matter of the first 6 chapters of Bhagavad Gita. In Bhagavad Gita there are 18 chapters. First 6 chapters predominantly speak Karma Yoga. And the middle 6 chapters, which are considered very confidential, they speak about the Bhakti Yoga. And the last 6 chapters speak about Jnana Yoga. Basically, Karma Yoga means connecting with God. Connecting one's consciousness with the Supreme is called as yoga. And if we try to connect our consciousness with the Supreme through our work, it is called Karma Yoga. And if we try to connect with the God through our knowledge, it is called Jnana Yoga. And if we try to connect with the Lord through devotion and devotional service, then it is called Bhakti Yoga. So these are the 3 subject matters of Bhagavad Gita. And out of these 3 yogas, Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Krishna recommends Bhakti Yoga as the supreme. It is the best of all spiritual paths. So these are the main subject matters of Bhagavad Gita. And it is also said that Bhagavad Gita mainly presents knowledge about 5 things. So you can see in the chart. Number 1, Jiva. Jiva is the living entity. Who am I? Bhagavad Gita answers this question. We are not these material bodies. We are spirit souls. So Bhagavad Gita gives a detailed knowledge about the spiritual nature of the soul and the material nature of the body, temporary nature of the body. And second topic is Ishvara, who is God. Third topic, Prakriti, what is this nature, what is this world. Then Kala, what is time. Karma, how to act and what is the reaction to our activity. So Jiva, Ishvara, then Prakriti, Kala and Karma. These are the 5 subject matters of Bhagavad Gita, which are universally relevant. It's not that these 5 topics are relevant only to a section of the society, only to some kind of sect. Not like that. These 5 topics are common to entire humanity, and Bhagavad Gita presents these 5 beautiful topics. And in the Bhagavatam, there is another beautiful example that says that especially during monsoon, in the night time, because the sky is overcast with clouds, we can't clearly see the moon or the stars. But during monsoon nights, we can see some glowworms. They are glowing. So there are some small insects that emanate some little light. So these glowworms become more prominent in the nights of monsoon than the stars in the sky, because the stars are covered by clouds. So similarly, in Kali Yuga, the real knowledge of Vedic scriptures does not shine as much as atheistic doctrines shine. So just like in monsoon nights, glowworms shine more than the stars in the sky. Similarly, in Kali Yuga, these atheistic doctrines and other materialistic philosophies become more prominent than the pure spiritual wisdom presented in Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam and other scriptures. So it's the responsibility of spiritual seekers to study these Vedic texts and also propagate this knowledge amongst the common masses. And Bhagavad Gita, while Bhagavad Gita presents a foundational understanding of spiritual life by describing the supreme spiritual path of Bhakti Yoga, Srimad Bhagavatam elaborates on the path of Bhakti Yoga very extensively with examples of so many devotees who have actually performed that Bhakti Yoga and perfected their lives. So while Bhagavad Gita has 700 shlokas, Srimad Bhagavatam has 18,000 shlokas. While Bhagavad Gita presents the basic philosophy of Bhakti Yoga and many other Vedic paths, and Srimad Bhagavatam elaborates on this Bhakti and gives so many examples and so many other stories of people who have actually perfected their lives by performing that Bhakti Yoga. So Srimad Bhagavatam is non-different from the Supreme Lord Krishna. Krishne swadhamopagate dharmagnanadibhis saha kalau nashtadrishamesha puranarko dhunodhitaha. Krishne swadhamopagate. Just before his departure, the Supreme Lord Krishna gave the teachings of Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna, and through Arjuna to the entire humanity. And after Krishna departed from this world, after Krishna disappeared from this planet, then again he descended back onto this planet in the form of this book called Srimad Bhagavatam. So when Krishna appears in the form of a fish, he is called Matsyavatar. When Krishna appears in the form of a hog, he is called Varahavatar. When Krishna appears in the form of a small dwarf Brahmana, he is called Vamanavatar. When Krishna appears as a human being, he may be called Ram. When Krishna appears as a swan, he is called Hamsavatar. And when Krishna appears in the form of a book, that is Granthavatar, he is Srimad Bhagavatam. So Srimad Bhagavatam is non-different from Krishna. So while Bhagavad Gita has philosophy, Srimad Bhagavatam has both philosophy and pastimes to explain and elaborate on that philosophy. So Bhagavatam is a combination of philosophy and pastimes. So thus Bhagavad Gita presents a foundational understanding, while Bhagavatam just elaborates on that understanding with so many historical incidents and the examples of Vedic, examples of several great souls. So this beautiful shloka comes. Vedaha Puranam Kavyam cha Prabhur Mitram Priyevacha Bodhayanti Tihi Prahu Trivrid Bhagavatam Punaha. Vedaha Puranam Kavyam cha. There are Vedas, we discussed. Vyasadeva has compiled these Vedas. Then Puranas, Vyasadeva has compiled 18 Puranas. Kavya means so many other poetic works. So, Prabhur Mitram Priyevacha. Vedas act like Prabhu, master, and guide this human society. Then Mitram, Puranas act like Mitra, friends to the humanity. Then Kavyam, Kavya means Vedic, poetic texts. They act like Priya, means a lover. So Vedas act like Prabhu, then Puranas act like Mitra, and Kavyas act like Priya. But Srimad Bhagavatam does all three. Bhagavatam is our friend also, Bhagavatam is our master also, Bhagavatam is our lover also. So in all ways, Srimad Bhagavatam is a constant companion of a sincere spiritual seeker. Now there are 5 potent forms of bhakti as described in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. They are, number 1, Sadhu Sangha, which is an association of spiritual seekers who have similar mindset like us. We are also aspiring for spiritual perfection. They are also aspiring for spiritual perfection. So thus, good association is one important aspect of bhakti. Second is Nama Kirtan, means chanting the holy names of God. Third is Bhagavata Sravana, hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, studying it and propagating it. Fourth is Mathuravasa, residing in a holy place. Fifth is Srimurtaya Shraddhaya Sevana, means worshipping the deity form of the Lord. These 5 are considered potent forms of devotional service. And Srimad Bhagavatam, which is one of these 5, has description of all these 5. So Bhagavatam describes the glory of the Sadhu Sangha, means good association. Bhagavatam describes the glory of holy names, Bhagavatam also describes the glory of holy places, Bhagavatam describes the glory of deity worship, and Bhagavatam itself contains the glories of Srimad Bhagavatam. In this way, Bhagavatam is a feast, a treat for all spiritual seekers. So Bhagavatam teaches us how to live in this world and how to leave this world for a better world, for spiritual world. Bhagavatam is considered the crown jewel of all scriptures. Bhagavatam is considered the essence of all scriptures, and Bhagavatam is considered a natural commentary for Vedanta Sutras. Means Vyasadeva has written Vedanta Sutras, and the same author Vyasadeva has written Srimad Bhagavatam also, elaborating on the principles of Vedanta Sutras. So Sarva Shastrabdhi Piyusha Sarva Vedaika Satphala Sarva Siddhanta Ratnadhya Sarva Lokaika Drikprada Sarva Bhagavata Prana Srimad Bhagavata Prabho Kalidhvanto Ditya Sri Krishna Parivartita. Sarva Shastrabdhi Piyusha. If all the Vedic scriptures are considered to be a milk ocean, Srimad Bhagavatam is considered to be nectar that emanated from that milk ocean when that milk ocean is churned. So Sarva Shastrabdhi Piyusha. Sarva Vedaika Satphala. If all the scriptures are compared to a desire fulfilling tree, Srimad Bhagavatam is compared to the ripened fruit of that desire tree of Vedic literatures. Sarva Vedaika Satphala. Sarva Siddhanta Ratnadhya. Srimad Bhagavatam contains all the jewel-like conclusive truths, philosophical principles. Sarva Siddhanta Ratnadhya. Sarva Lokaika Drikprada. Srimad Bhagavatam gives the right vision to the entire humanity. Sarva Bhagavata Prana. So Srimad Bhagavatam is very dear to all spiritual seekers. So Bhagavatam is considered very close to the hearts of all devotees and Vaishnavas. And Srimad Bhagavata Prabho Kalidhvanto Ditaditya Sri Krishna Parivartita. So Srimad Bhagavatam is non-different from Krishna. So if you want to describe Srimad Bhagavatam in one line, Sri Krishna Parivartita. So Srimad Bhagavatam is just Sri Krishna who has come back to this world in the form of this book. And Srimad Bhagavatam is like sun that can dissipate the darkness of the ignorance of Kali Yuga. And wherever Srimad Bhagavatam is there, no inauspiciousness can be present there. So this shloka says, Bhagavata Pustaka Thakaye Yara Ghare Kona Amangala Nahi Yaya Tatha Kare. So if Srimad Bhagavatam book is kept in one house, no inauspiciousness can enter in that house. So Nigama Kalpataror Galitam Phalam Sukamukhadamritadrava Samyutam Pibata Bhagavatam Rasamalayam Muhuraho Rasika Bhuvi Bhavukaha. So Srimad Bhagavatam is considered to be the ripened fruit of the desire tree of Vedic literatures, and all the thoughtful sages and the thoughtful spiritual seekers amongst the human beings, they are supposed to drink this nectar of Srimad Bhagavatam through their ear holes and attain spiritual perfection. This is an invitation to all the devotees and spiritual seekers to relish Srimad Bhagavatam. And Bhagavatam has 10 topics. Sarga. Sarga means creation of this universe done by the Supreme Lord. Second is Visarga. Visarga means the secondary creation done by Brahma within this universe. Then third is Sthanam. The positioning of various living entities in different planetary systems is called Sthanam. Fourth topic of Bhagavatam is Poshanam. How the Supreme Lord protects all his devotees, even if sometimes they happen to do some mistakes circumstantially, not intentionally. Then fifth is Uti. Uti means impetus or inclination to perform an activity. Sixth is Manvantara, means the change of Manus, who are the progenitors of mankind. Then sixth is Ishanukatha, means the stories of the Supreme Lord and his devotees. Eighth topic is Nirodha, means liberation. Then Nirodha is basically destruction of this universe. Then ninth topic is Mukti, liberation. 10th topic is Asharya, or the supreme shelter, which is Supreme Lord Krishna. These are the 10 topics of Srimad Bhagavatam. And Srimad Bhagavatam was originally spoken by the Supreme Lord to Brahma, and Brahma spoke that Srimad Bhagavatam to Narada. So in this way, Bhagavatam descends in this transparent via media of parampara. There is a beautiful shloka in Bhagavatam. Kasmayena vibhasito yamatulo gnana pradipah puram tadrupena cha naradaya munaye krishnaya tadrupina yogindraya tadatmanatha bhagavadrataya karunyata tatshuddham vimalam vishokam amritam satyam param dhimahi. The meaning of this beautiful shloka is that Srimad Bhagavatam was originally spoken by the Supreme Lord unto Lord Brahma. And in the form of Brahma, that Supreme Lord Krishna spoke that Bhagavatam to Narada Muni. In the form of Narada Muni, Krishna spoke Bhagavatam to Vyasadeva. In the form of Vyasadeva, Krishna spoke Bhagavatam to Sukadeva Goswami. In the form of Sukadeva Goswami, Krishna spoke Bhagavatam to Parikshit Maharaj and Suta Goswami. And then Suta Goswami spoke to Naimisharanya sages. So, in this glorious parampara, whether Krishna is speaking or Brahma is speaking or Narada is speaking or Vyas is speaking or Sukadeva Goswami is speaking or Suta Goswami is speaking, it is Krishna who is speaking the Srimad Bhagavatam through this transparent via media of parampara. The transcendental teachings of the Supreme Lord Krishna are transparently transmitted through this parampara for our transformation and to end our tribulations in this material world. That is the glory of Srimad Bhagavatam. So Srimad Bhagavatam cannot be understood by our material intelligence. Material knowledge can be understood by some research, but spiritual knowledge is understood by revelation. When our intentions are proper, when our lifestyle is proper, then when we surrender, submissively take shelter of superiors and seniors in the process of bhakti, then we attain the knowledge of Srimad Bhagavatam more than understanding it with our own material intelligence. So that's why Srimad Bhagavatam is compared to an eternal companion of a sincere spiritual seeker. Madeka bandho mat sangin madguru man mahadhana mannistaraka mad bhagya madananda namostute. Madeka bandho, Bhagavatam is my dearest relative, only relative. Mat Sangin, my companion. Mad Guru, my spiritual master. Man Mahadhana, my greatest wealth is Srimad Bhagavatam. Man Nistaraka, my deliverer is Srimad Bhagavatam. Mad Bhagya, my greatest fortune is Srimad Bhagavatam. Mad Ananda Namostute, and Bhagavatam is my greatest happiness. So in this way, Bhagavatam is glorified by various devotees in various ways. And so this Srimad Bhagavatam is considered to be the cream of all scriptures. Today we have discussed about the heritage of scriptures, how Vyasadeva has compiled various Vedas and Puranas and Mahabharat and finally Srimad Bhagavatam, and we have discussed about the propagation of these various scriptures and Vedic texts through the disciples and grand disciples of Vyasadeva. So this knowledge of Vedic scriptures is actually preserved by propagating it. So generally things are preserved by just keeping it safely in a locker or in a store. But Vedic knowledge, culture and values are preserved by widely propagating them. So we have to do preservation by propagation of Vedic knowledge. And Vyasadeva has propagated this knowledge through his disciples and grand disciples, and the whole parampara, Vaishnava parampara has propagated these Vedic scriptures up to this point, and it is our responsibility also to study them nicely and propagate this knowledge to the best of our capacity for the welfare of the entire humanity. Thus, we will benefit ourselves and we will benefit others also. So, we have also discussed briefly about the glories of Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, which are considered very important scriptures for the guidance of the entire humanity. Thank you all very much. Hare Krishna.